For as long as we have been human, we have been explorers. We have scaled the highest mountains, plumbed the deepest oceans, and cast our gaze to the farthest stars, driven by an insatiable curiosity to understand the world around us. But there is another universe, an inner cosmos that each of us explores every single night. It is a realm without the familiar laws of physics, a landscape where time bends and merges, where the living can converse with the dead, and where our deepest fears and wildest fantasies are given a grand and mysterious stage. This, of course, is the world of dreams. What are these nightly narratives? Are they merely chaotic firings of a resting brain, a form of mental static, as some have suggested? Or are they something more? For millennia, we believed so. We saw them as divine messages from the gods, prophetic omens of the future, or literal visitations from a spiritual plane. A dream was not something our mind made, it was something our soul received. But in the last century, a new kind of explorer, the neuroscientist, the psychologist, the sleep researcher, has begun to map this hidden territory with the tools of science. They have peered into the sleeping brain and discovered that it is anything but resting. It is a hive of furious activity, a crucible for forging memory, a laboratory for creativity, and a vital therapist for our emotional lives. The scientific revolution has not stripped dreams of their wonder. It has revealed a different, more intricate, and arguably more profound kind of magic. So, for the next 2 hours, we invite you to join us on a deep scientific journey into this inner world. We will navigate the complex architecture of sleep, tour the specific brain structures that build our dreamscapes, and weigh the great historical and modern theories that attempt to answer the ultimate question: why do we dream? We will explore the shared language of dream symbols, learn how to become a conscious navigator of our own dreams, and confront the darker side of when the dream world turns against us. Prepare to venture into the heart of the sleeping brain, to the very source of your nightly stories. The journey begins now. To truly understand the dream, we must first understand the landscape in which it grows, the dynamic and meticulously organized landscape of sleep. Sleep is not a simple state of inactivity, a mere off switch for the mind. It is a complex, cyclical, and essential biological process. Our journey through the night is a descent through several distinct stages, a process we call sleep architecture, each with its own unique purpose and brain activity. As you lie down, ready for sleep, your brain waves begin to signal a shift in consciousness. The frantic, high-frequency beta waves of your busy, analytical, waking day begin to subside. They are replaced by the calmer, more rhythmic, and lower-frequency alpha waves. This is the gentle shore of sleep, a state of relaxed, eyes-closed wakefulness. You are disengaging from the world and your mind begins to quiet. Then you slip over the edge. This is stage 1 of non-REM sleep, or N1. It's a fleeting, light stage, often lasting only a few minutes. Here, your brain waves slow further into the gentle, rolling patterns of theta waves. Your muscles, while relaxing, are still active, and you may experience sudden, involuntary muscle contractions called hypnic jerks, that bizarre and unsettling feeling of falling that can jolt you fully awake. In this twilight state, you may also experience hypnagogic hallucinations, seeing fleeting geometric patterns, hearing your name called, or feeling a sense of floating. This is the mind letting go of its grip on reality. If someone woke you now, you might insist you were never asleep at all. Next, we descend into stage 2, or N2, where we will spend the majority of our sleep time, roughly half the entire night. This is the baseline of true sleep. Your heart rate slows, your body temperature drops, and you become fully disengaged from the external world. Your theta brainwaves are now punctuated by 2 fascinating and critical phenomena. First, you'll see sudden, powerful bursts of rapid brain activity called sleep spindles. Scientists now believe these spindles are the neural signature of memory consolidation. They represent a dialogue between the hippocampus, the brain's short-term memory inbox, and the neocortex, the long-term storage facility. During a spindle, the brain is actively deciding what information from the day is important enough to keep. Second are K complexes, large, slow waves that are the brain's largest single electrical events. They serve a dual purpose. They are a protective mechanism. suppressing cortical arousal in response to minor noises to keep you asleep, while also aiding in the memory consolidation process. Think of stage 2 as the brain's busy night shift, quietly sorting, filing, and protecting your mind. From N2, we descend into the deepest, most restorative stage of sleep, stage 3 or N3, also known as slow-wave sleep. Here your brain produces large, slow, high-amplitude delta waves. This is the stage of profound physical repair. During N3, the pituitary gland releases growth hormone, which facilitates the repair of tissues and muscles. It's also when the brain undertakes a critical cleaning process. The glymphatic system, the brain's unique waste clearance network, becomes 10 times more active during deep sleep, flushing out metabolic byproducts and neurotoxins, including the amyloid beta proteins associated with Alzheimer's disease. It is incredibly difficult to wake someone from slow-wave sleep. If you are awakened, you'll feel groggy, confused, and deeply disoriented, a state called sleep inertia. This stage is primarily for the body's restoration and the brain's physical maintenance. But after this period of deep rest, typically 70 to 90 minutes into the night, something remarkable happens. We don't stay in the depths. We ascend back through stage 2, and then, instead of waking up, we plunge into a world that is, in many ways, as active and vibrant as being awake. This is REM sleep, rapid eye movement. It is so different from the other stages that sleep is often divided into just 2 major categories, REM and non-REM. Its formal discovery in 1953 by graduate student Eugene Aserinsky and his professor Nathaniel Kleitman at the University of Chicago was a watershed moment that revolutionized sleep science. Aserinsky noted that during certain periods of the night, his young subjects' eyes would dart wildly back and forth beneath their closed lids. Initially thinking it was an artifact of their equipment, they soon realized it was a genuine physiological state. When they woke subjects during these periods of rapid eye movement, they were met not with groggy confusion, but with incredible stories, the vivid, bizarre, emotional, and narrative-driven experiences we call dreams. Physiologically, REM sleep is a land of profound contradictions, which is why it's also called paradoxical sleep. On one hand, your brain becomes a storm of activity. Brain scans show that energy consumption and electrical activity, particularly in higher cortical regions, are equivalent to, or even greater than, a brain that is awake and intensely focused. Your heart rate and breathing become fast and irregular. Yet, on the other hand, your body's voluntary muscles, from your neck down, are completely paralyzed, locked in a state called REMatonia. Your brainstem actively sends powerful inhibitory signals down your spinal cord to prevent your motor neurons from firing. This is a brilliant and crucial evolutionary safety mechanism. It prevents you from physically acting out your dreams, ensuring you don't leap out of bed to literally fight the monster, embrace a long-lost love, or fly through the city you are so vividly experiencing in your mind. We cycle through these stages, NREM and REM, about 4 to 5 times per night, with each cycle lasting around 90 to 110 minutes. Early in the night, these cycles are dominated by deep N3 slow-wave sleep. But as the night progresses, the REM stages become progressively longer and more intense, while N3 sleep diminishes. This is why most of our most memorable and elaborate dreaming happens in the final third of the night, often in the hours just before we wake. This is the intricate and beautiful ballet of sleep, the dynamic stage upon which our dreams will play. So, we've set the stage. The curtain rises on REM sleep. The body is still, but the mind is ablaze. What exactly is happening in the theater of the mind to produce these nightly spectacles? Let's take a detailed tour of the key players, the brain regions and the neurochemical conductors that collaborate to construct a dream. Our tour starts deep in the most ancient part of our brain, the brainstem, specifically in a region called the pons. You can think of the pons as the on switch, or the generator for REM sleep. It sends cascades of electrical signals upwards to activate higher brain regions, kickstarting the process. Simultaneously, it sends signals downwards through the medulla to the spinal cord, initiating the profound muscle paralysis of REMatonia. This upward activation is the fundamental spark that ignites the dream. These activating signals travel to the thalamus, the brain's central relay station. During waking life, the thalamus is like a busy switchboard operator, directing the constant stream of sensory information from your eyes, ears, and skin up to the cortex for processing. But during REM sleep, the gate to the outside world is firmly closed. The thalamus blocks the transmission of nearly all external stimuli. This sensory blockade forces the brain to turn inward. Unable to process the outside world, it begins to process its own internally generated signals, creating the sights, sounds, and sensations of the dream world from scratch. Now we move into the limbic system, the emotional core of the brain. Here, the amygdala becomes hyperactive. The amygdala is our primal emotional center, responsible for generating core feelings like fear, rage, and pleasure. Its heightened activity during REM sleep is precisely why our dreams are so often intensely emotional. The heart-pounding terror of being chased, the pure elation of flight, the gut-wrenching sadness of the loss. These feelings are not just weakly imagined, they are generated by the exact same neural hardware that produces them when we are awake. The feeling of dread as you walk down a dark hallway in a dream isn't just a thought, it's your amygdala firing in a way that is neurochemically indistinguishable from a real-world terror. The dreaming brain is, first and foremost, an emotional brain. Nearby, the hippocampus is also hard at work. The hippocampus is absolutely critical for forming, organizing, and navigating our memories. During the day, it acts like a temporary inbox or a scratch pad, holding on to the events and facts we've learned. During sleep, particularly during REM and the N2 stage, the hippocampus engages in a process of neural replay. It reactivates the patterns of neurons that fired during recent waking experiences, effectively replaying them for the neocortex, the brain's vast long-term storage facility. Studies on rats have shown them replaying the exact neural sequences of running a maze, but at a much faster speed. This replay doesn't just strengthen memories, it helps the brain extract patterns, find novel connections, and integrate new information with old knowledge. The often bizarre and surreal nature of dreams, where a person from your childhood might appear in your current workplace using a tool from a movie you saw last week, could be a direct and visible manifestation of this memory integration process. And where do the vivid cinematic images of our dreams come from? They are born in the visual cortex, located at the very back of the brain. Even with our eyes closed and in total darkness, this region becomes a hub of intense activity during REM sleep. The brain is not seeing in the traditional sense. It is generating its own visual experience by activating stored visual memories and recombining them in novel ways. It is creating an internal movie, projected on the back of our minds, which is why dreams can feel so visually immersive and utterly real while we are in them. But perhaps the most important clue to the unique character of dreams comes not from what is active, but from what is profoundly inactive. During REM sleep, a large and evolutionarily advanced part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, PFC, goes significantly offline. The PFC, located right behind your forehead, is the CEO of your brain. It's responsible for our highest order cognitive functions: rational thought, complex problem solving, linear logic, impulse control, and importantly, our sense of self-awareness and self-reflection. The deactivation of this region has massive consequences. With the logical PFC offline, the dream world is free to be utterly bizarre, and we don't question it. We accept that we can breathe underwater, that our dead relatives are giving us advice, or that we are in a high-stakes exam for a class we never took. The lack of critical thinking and linear logic stems directly from this prefrontal shutdown. It also explains the distortion of time and space, where a dream that feels like it lasted for hours may have only occupied a few minutes of REM. Most importantly, this shutdown of our self-awareness center is why we typically don't realize we are dreaming. We lack the reflective capacity to step back and say, "This is strange, this must be a dream." This loss of insight is the default state of dreaming. Finally, this entire symphony is conducted by a unique and very specific chemical cocktail. Levels of the neurotransmitter acetylcholine are high, keeping the cortex activated and plastic for learning. But levels of two key waking state neurotransmitters, serotonin and norepinephrine, plummet to almost zero. These chemicals are crucial for attention, mood regulation, and focused, logical thought. Dreaming in a brain without them is like taking the governor off an engine. It allows for a state of broad, unconstrained, hyper-associative thinking, where the mind can leap between seemingly unrelated ideas, memories, and emotions, creating the strange, poetic, and wonderful tapestry of the dream. This, then, is the dreaming brain, an emotionally supercharged, internally focused, visually creative, logically impaired, and chemically unique state of consciousness. It is a brain that is cut off from the world, talking to itself in its own private language. The question is not just how we dream, but why. Why would evolution design and meticulously preserve a nightly state of consciousness that paralyzes our bodies and fills our minds with fantastical and often frightening narratives? This question is as old as human self-awareness itself. For the vast majority of human history, the answer was not sought within the brain, but from the world beyond. For the ancient Mesopotamians, dreams were portals through which gods and demons could communicate with mortals, as chronicled in texts like the Epic of Gilgamesh. For the ancient Egyptians, dreams were a vital source of divine wisdom. They built dream temples and employed professional interpreters, the masters of the secret things, to analyze dreams for omens, prophecies, and medical cures. In ancient Greece, the great philosopher Artemidorus of Daldis wrote the Onirocritica, a massive 5-volume text on dream interpretation, attempting to create a systematic, though non-scientific, method for decoding their symbols. The Bible is filled with pivotal prophetic dreams, from Joseph interpreting the Pharaoh's dream of 7 fat and 7 lean cows, to Jacob's vision of a ladder to heaven. For most of our history, dreams were seen as a sacred window to a divine external intelligence. The modern psychological search for meaning began in earnest at the dawn of the 20th century, with one of the most influential and controversial thinkers of his time, Sigmund Freud. In his seminal 1900 book, The Interpretation of Dreams, Freud powerfully argued that the window opened by dreams was not to the heavens, but to the deepest, darkest, and most hidden corners of our own minds. Freud proposed that dreams are a complex form of wish fulfillment. He believed they are the royal road to the unconscious, a psychic space where our repressed desires, socially taboo urges, and unresolved childhood conflicts can be expressed in a disguised and symbolic form to avoid disturbing our sleep. He made a critical distinction between the manifest content, the actual storyline of the dream as we remember it, and the latent content, the hidden, symbolic, and true psychological meaning. For example, you might dream of climbing a staircase, the manifest content. Freud might interpret this as a symbol of sexual intercourse, the latent content, the mental process by which the unconscious mind disguises this latent content he called the dream work. This process used mechanisms like condensation, merging multiple threatening ideas into a single safe symbol, displacement, shifting powerful emotion from a threatening object to a mundane one, and elaborate symbolism. While most of Freud's specific theories and his intense focus on repressed sexual urges have been largely dismissed by modern neuroscience, his core idea was revolutionary: that dreams are not random noise, but a meaningful product of our own psychology, worthy of serious personal inquiry. A brilliant student of Freud's who eventually broke away to form his own, profoundly different school of thought was Carl Jung. Jung agreed that dreams were a vital window to the inner self, but he saw their purpose not as concealing our base urges, but as a natural and healing process of striving for psychic wholeness and balance, a lifelong journey he called individuation. For Jung, dreams were compensatory. They bring us what is missing from our conscious life to make us more complete. Jung also proposed that dreams tap into not just our personal unconscious, but also a collective unconscious, a vast reservoir of shared, inherited memories, instincts, and symbols common to all of humanity. These universal symbols he called archetypes. In our dreams, we might encounter the shadow, representing the dark, rejected, and unacknowledged parts of ourselves that we must confront to be whole. We might meet the anima or animus, the contrasexual aspect of our psyche, the inner feminine in a man or the inner masculine in a woman, or we might be guided by the wise old man or wise old woman, a symbol of profound insight and wisdom. For Jung, dreams were an ongoing, healing dialogue with the deepest parts of ourselves. offering guidance, revealing our imbalances, and pushing us towards growth. In the 1970s, as neuroscience flourished, a radically different bottom-up theory emerged from Harvard researchers J. Allen Hobson and Robert McCarley. Their activation synthesis theory proposed that the experience of dreaming is simply our higher brain's attempt to make sense of random electrical signals sent up from the brainstem. It stated that during REM sleep, the pons sends a flurry of chaotic signals, the activation, up to the cortex. The cortex, our center for thinking and storytelling, then does its best to synthesize these random signals into a coherent narrative, weaving them into a story using its own stored memories and experiences. The bizarreness of dreams in this review is simply the cortex's best attempt to create a linear story from fundamentally non-linear, nonsensical data. The initial theory boldly suggested dreams were essentially meaningless physiological byproducts. Over time, however, Hobson refined this idea into the AIM model, activation input modulation. This more nuanced model acknowledged that while the initial activation might be random, the way our brain interprets it, the synthesis part, is profoundly shaped by our memories, emotions, and the unique neurochemical state of REM sleep, the modulation. This updated view allows for dreams to be psychologically meaningful and revealing about the dreamer, even if they aren't initiated by a deep psychological purpose. Another prominent modern theory focuses on a more practical, cognitive function: information processing and memory consolidation. This theory posits that sleep, and dreaming in particular, is absolutely essential for learning and memory. All day, we are bombarded with a fire hose of information. Sleep provides the quiet, offline, downtime needed to sort through it all, deciding what to keep and what to discard. Numerous studies have elegantly shown this in action. Subjects taught a new skill, like a complex finger-tapping sequence or navigating a virtual maze, perform significantly better after a full night's sleep, especially one rich in REM. It appears the brain replays the neural patterns of the day's events, strengthening the important connections, a process called long-term potentiation, and pruning away weaker, less relevant ones. Dreams, in this view, might be the subjective experience, the conscious echo of this vital memory consolidation process. It's a glimpse into the mind's nightly work of turning experience into lasting knowledge. From an evolutionary perspective, Finnish neuroscientist Antti Revonsuo proposed the compelling threat simulation theory. He argues that dreaming evolved as a protective biological mechanism, an ancient virtual reality simulator for survival. For our hunter-gatherer ancestors, the world was a relentlessly dangerous place. This theory suggests that dreams provide a safe, offline environment to rehearse and prepare for high-stakes, life or death situations. When you dream of being chased by a predator, falling from a height, or being in a violent conflict, your brain is simulating a threatening scenario. It's allowing you to practice your threat perception and avoidance skills over and over again. This could powerfully explain why so many of our dreams are tinged with anxiety or are outright negative. They are the mind's ancient flight simulator, keeping your survival instincts sharp and ready, just in case. Finally, one of the most compelling and therapeutically significant modern theories is the emotional regulation theory, championed by leading sleep researchers like Dr. Matthew Walker. This theory suggests that REM sleep dreaming acts as a form of overnight therapy. A key discovery is that REM sleep is the only time in a 24-hour period when our brain is completely devoid of the anxiety-inducing molecule, norepinephrine. This theory proposes that during REM, the brain reprocesses emotional, often difficult and traumatic memories from the day. But crucially, it does so in this chemically safe, low-anxiety neurochemical environment. This process allows the brain to strip the painful emotional charge, or the sharp sting, away from the memory itself. You retain the useful information of the autobiographical event, but you lose its visceral emotional power. It's a process of emotional convalescence. As Dr. Walker poetically puts it, the purpose of REM sleep dreaming is to sleep to remember and to sleep to forget. To remember the details of the experience, but to forget the lingering emotional pain. It's what helps us wake up the next day with a calmer perspective on yesterday's challenges. These powerful theories are not mutually exclusive. Dreaming is likely a multi-purpose tool, a Swiss Army knife of the mind, that simultaneously helps us regulate our emotions, consolidate our memories, practice our survival skills, and perhaps even unlock novel solutions to our waking problems. While every dream is as unique as the dreamer's own mind, certain themes, symbols, and scenarios appear with startling regularity across cultures, generations, and individuals. This shared dream lexicon has fascinated us for centuries. While a generic dream dictionary can never give you a definitive answer, exploring these common motifs can be a powerful starting point for personal reflection. The most important interpretive tool is always your own feeling and context. Ask yourself, what does this symbol feel like? And what does it relate to in my life right now? Let's explore some of the most common themes in more detail. Falling. This is one of the most universal dream experiences, that gut-wrenching, helpless plunge into an abyss. Psychologically, it very often correlates with feelings of insecurity, instability, or a loss of control in your waking life. It can be tied to anxieties about your career, a failing relationship, or financial troubles, reflecting a deep-seated feeling that the ground beneath your feet is giving way. Being chased, a classic anxiety dream that taps into our primal fight-or-flight response. This almost always points to a pattern of avoidance in waking life. The key to interpretation is to try and identify what you are running from, and just as importantly, who or what is doing the chasing. Sometimes the pursuer is a clear external pressure, like a looming deadline, a difficult boss, or an unresolved conflict. Other times, as Jungian psychologists might suggest, you are being chased by your own shadow, an aspect of yourself like your anger, your grief, or your ambition that you have repressed and refused to confront. The dream is forcing you to turn and face it. Losing teeth. This is a surprisingly common, visceral, and distressing dream. Interpretations are varied and layered. On the surface, it can be linked to anxiety about your appearance and how others perceive you. Deeper, it can symbolize feelings of powerlessness or a loss of your ability to communicate effectively, to have a voice, or make your mark. It can also relate to major life transitions, harkening back to the natural but unsettling experience of losing baby teeth as a child, signaling a move into a new phase of life. In some cases, it can even have a physiological root, as stress-induced teeth grinding at night, bruxism, can trigger sensory input that the brain then incorporates into a dream narrative. Public nudity. You're giving a major presentation, walking through a crowded mall or back in your old school, and you suddenly realize you're completely naked. This dream vividly captures raw feelings of vulnerability, shame, and exposure. It often occurs when we feel unprepared, fraudulent, or are afraid that our flaws and imperfections are about to be revealed to the world. It is a classic manifestation of the imposter syndrome, the fear of being found out as not being smart enough, good enough, or worthy enough for our role. Failing an exam or being unprepared. Even decades after leaving school, countless adults still have these dreams. You can't find the exam room, the test is in a language you don't understand, the questions are impossible, or your pen won't write. This is almost never about academics. It's about a core fear of judgment and failure. It reflects feelings of being tested and evaluated in your waking life, in your career, your relationships, your creative pursuits, and feeling that you will not measure up to expectations, either your own or those of others. Flying. This is often one of the most exhilarating and joyful dream experiences. To soar effortlessly through the sky can symbolize a profound sense of freedom, liberation, and personal power. It can mean you are rising above a complex problem, gaining a new and broader perspective on your life, or feeling confident and in control of your destiny. But the context is everything. Are you flying effortlessly and joyfully? Or are you struggling to stay aloft, tangled in power lines, fearing you will crash? The latter might suggest that your ambitions are precarious or that you fear losing your newfound sense of freedom. Water. Water in dreams is almost universally seen as a symbol for the emotions and the vastness of the unconscious mind. The state of the water is therefore incredibly telling. A calm, clear ocean or a peaceful lake might represent emotional peace, serenity, and clarity. A raging, muddy flood or a terrifying tsunami could symbolize being overwhelmed by your emotions or feeling caught up in a situation you can't control. Drowning might suggest you feel you're in over your head with work, responsibilities, or emotional baggage. Houses. A house in a dream very often represents the self, with the different rooms corresponding to different aspects of your psyche. The attic, high up, might be your higher consciousness, your beliefs, or your intellect. The basement, deep down, could represent your unconscious, your primal instincts, or your repressed memories. The kitchen might symbolize nourishment and creativity, while the bedroom could relate to intimacy and your private self. A dream of discovering new, unknown rooms in your own house can be a powerful and exciting symbol of self-discovery and untapped potential. Again, these are just signposts, common patterns in the human psyche. The true meaning of your dream is woven into the intricate fabric of your own life, your personal history, your unique associations, and most importantly, the emotions you felt within the dream itself. The dream is your own personal story, written in your own private symbolic language. What if you could awaken your conscious mind while your body remained asleep? What if you could become aware within the dream, and with that awareness, step into the director's chair of your own nightly film? This is not a fantasy from a science fiction movie. This is the very real, scientifically validated phenomenon of lucid dreaming. A lucid dream is any dream in which the dreamer knows that they are dreaming. For some, this is a fleeting moment of recognition, a brief flash of insight before the dream's narrative pulls them back under. But for experienced lucid dreamers, it's an opportunity to consciously and deliberately explore and even control the dream world with full waking awareness and memory. While the concept has been discussed by mystics and philosophers for centuries, lucid dreaming was brought into the realm of objective science in the late 1970s and early 1980s by the pioneering researcher Dr. Stephen LaBerge at Stanford University. He devised a series of brilliant and elegant experiments to prove its existence. LaBerge and his subjects agreed upon a specific, unmistakable signal they would perform the moment they became lucid in a dream. A distinct sequence of eye movements, such as left, right, left, right. While their bodies were paralyzed by REM myotonia, their eyes were not. In the sleep lab, by monitoring their brain waves with an EEG and their eye movements with an EOG, LaBerge was able to receive a clear, verifiable signal sent from a conscious mind inside a dreaming brain. It was the first objective communication from the dream world, and it proved that lucid dreaming was a real and verifiable state of consciousness. So, how can you learn to do it? While some people experience lucid dreams spontaneously, especially in childhood, for most adults, it's a skill that can be cultivated with dedication and practice. Here are the most common and effective techniques. The absolute foundation of all lucid dreaming is dream recall. It's simple. If you don't remember your dreams, you can't possibly become lucid in them. The single best way to dramatically improve your dream recall is to keep a dream journal. Keep a notebook and pen, or a voice recorder, right by your bed. The very first thing you do upon waking, before you sit up, before you check your phone, before your mind floods with the day's worries, is to lie still for a few moments and try to fish for any wisp or fragment of a dream. Write down everything you can remember, no matter how bizarre, mundane, or insignificant it seems. Describe the scenes, the characters, the feelings. This simple act trains your brain to see dreams as important information worth retaining and bringing into waking consciousness. Over time, you can look for recurring dream signs in your journal, a person, object, or a situation that appears often and can become a reliable trigger for lucidity. The next step is to cultivate a habit of questioning your reality throughout the day. This is done through frequent reality checks. At least 10 to 15 times during your waking day, stop for a moment and genuinely ask yourself, am I dreaming right now? Then perform a test based on the fact that the physics and logic of the dream world are unstable. A classic check is to try pushing the finger of one hand through the solid palm of the other. In waking life, it will be solid. In a dream, it will often pass right through. Another powerful check is to look at a clock or a piece of text, look away for a second, and then look back. In a dream, the time or the words on the page will almost always have changed, scrambled, or become nonsensical. By making this a regular, mindful habit, you create an automatic program in your mind. Eventually, you will perform a reality check inside a dream. The test will fail, and that failure will be your trigger for becoming gloriously lucid. One of the most effective intentional techniques is called MEILD, or the mnemonic induction of lucid dreams. This technique, developed by LaBerge, leverages perspective memory, the ability to remember to do something in the future. As you are falling asleep or after waking from a dream in the middle of the night, you repeat a simple mantra with clear and firm intention, such as, "Next time I'm dreaming, I will remember I'm dreaming." As you repeat this, you visualize yourself back inside a recent dream, but this time you imagine yourself recognizing that it's a dream and successfully performing a reality check. You are setting a powerful intention, creating a mental trigger that your brain is more likely to fire once you enter the REM state. Why would someone want to do this? The motivations are as vast as the dream world itself. For many, it's for pure, unadulterated fun and exploration. To fly over mountains, breathe underwater, and explore coral reefs, travel to other planets, or simply indulge in exhilarating fantasies. For others, it's a powerful tool for personal and therapeutic growth. You can use lucid dreams to confront and have a dialogue with the frightening figures in your nightmares, turning a terrifying experience into an empowering one of integration and healing. Artists, musicians, and scientists can use the limitless, hyper-associative creativity of the dream state to find inspiration, compose melodies, and solve complex problems. And for many, it is a profound spiritual practice, a way to directly explore the very nature of consciousness itself, reminding us that we hold entire universes within our own minds. The inner cosmos is not always a place of wonder and delight. Sometimes our dreams can turn against us, becoming a private theater of horror, a source of profound terror and distress that can shatter our sleep and haunt our waking hours. These are nightmares. A nightmare is defined as a vivid, disturbing, and extended dream, usually occurring during late-night REM sleep, that evokes strong negative emotions like fear, anxiety, or sadness, and typically results in the dreamer waking up abruptly with a clear and distressing memory of the dream's content. Occasional nightmares are a normal part of the human experience, often triggered by acute stress, fever or illness, certain medications, or even just watching a scary movie before bed. However, for some individuals, they become a chronic and debilitating problem. Nightmare disorder is a clinical diagnosis for a condition where frequent, recurrent nightmares cause significant distress, severely disrupt sleep, and directly impact daytime functioning, leading to fatigue, irritability, and a pervasive anxiety or even a phobic fear of going to sleep. This condition is particularly common and severe in individuals with post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. In PTSD, the brain seems to get stuck in a loop, compulsively replaying a traumatic event in vivid, terrifying, and unmodified detail night after night, re-traumatizing the individual with each occurrence. Thankfully, targeted therapies like imagery rehearsal therapy, IRT, have proven to be highly effective. In IRT, a person writes down their nightmare in detail while awake, and then deliberately rewrites the narrative with a different, less distressing, or even an empowering ending. They then mentally rehearse this new, modified dream script daily, which over time can effectively reprogram the brain to alter or even eliminate the nightmare. It is critically important to distinguish nightmares from another frightening sleep event, night terrors or sleep terrors. While they sound similar, they are neurologically very different. While nightmares are a phenomenon of REM sleep, night terrors are a disorder of arousal that erupts from the deepest stage of NREM slow-wave sleep, N3. A person experiencing a night terror might suddenly bolt upright in bed, let out a piercing scream, and thrash around with a look of intense panic on their face. Their heart races and they may be sweating profusely, yet they are not truly awake and are very difficult to comfort or console. The crucial difference is that upon eventually waking, they typically have no memory of a coherent dream narrative, just a lingering, crushing sense of inexplicable terror. It is a frightening but brief glitch in the transition out of deep sleep, not primarily a disorder of dreaming. One of the most bizarre and scientifically fascinating dream-related disorders is REM sleep behavior disorder, RBD. Remember the essential protective paralysis, remitonia, that keeps our bodies still while our minds are off adventuring in dreams? In individuals with RBD, that paralysis mechanism fails. The off switch for the voluntary muscles is broken. As a result, they physically and often violently act out their dreams, which are frequently vivid, action-packed, and aggressive. They might punch walls, kick, shout, or leap from the bed in an attempt to fight off an attacker or escape a threat in their dream, posing a serious risk of injury to themselves and their bed partners. RBD is a significant neurological condition, not just because of the immediate risk of injury, but because modern research has shown that it is a very strong early predictor of developing certain neurodegenerative diseases, particularly alpha-synucleinopathies like Parkinson's disease and Lewy body dementia. In many cases, the onset of RBD can precede the motor symptoms of these conditions by a decade or more, making it a critical area of ongoing research. Finally, we come to one of an experience that has terrified humanity for millennia: sleep paralysis. This occurs when your mind wakes up and becomes conscious, but the bodily paralysis of REM-atonia has not yet worn off. You find yourself awake, your eyes open, fully aware of your surroundings, but you cannot move a single muscle or make a sound. To make this already terrifying experience exponentially worse, it is often accompanied by a frightening sense of a crushing pressure on the chest and vivid multisensory hallucinations of a malevolent presence in the room, a shadowy figure, an intruder, or an old hag. For centuries, this universal experience was explained through dark folklore: the old hag in Newfoundland, the kanashibari in Japan, the incubus or succubus demons of medieval Europe. Science now understands it as a simple but frightening glitch in the sleep-wake transition, a momentary overlap of waking consciousness and REM paralysis. While it can be utterly horrifying, it is physiologically harmless and always temporary. For those who experience it, understanding the simple neuroscience behind it can be the most powerful tool to reduce the terror and regain a sense of control. These various disorders serve as a powerful reminder that the boundary between our sleeping and waking worlds is more fragile and more complex than we might ever imagine. Our 2-hour journey through the inner cosmos, from the shores of light sleep to the deep, paradoxical world of the dreaming brain, is now coming to a close. We have seen that the world of dreams, far from being a meaningless void or a chaotic byproduct of a resting brain, is a fundamental, active, and profoundly important part of our biology and our psychology. It is a sophisticated and ancient virtual reality simulator for survival. It is a compassionate and tireless nightly therapist for our emotions. It is a meticulous archivist for our memories and a boundless, unconstrained canvas for our creativity. The dreaming brain is not resting. It is working. It is healing, processing, connecting, consolidating, and creating in ways our waking brain cannot. Science has pulled back the curtain, revealing the intricate dance of the pons, the amygdala, the hippocampus, and the cortex. It has given us powerful theories that frame dreaming as an elegant and adaptive tool for navigating the complexities of life. But the ultimate meaning of any single dream, the final translation of its unique symbolic language, remains a deeply personal quest. The dream, in the end, is a letter from you to you. The mysteries are far from solved. Great questions still remain, waiting for the next generation of explorers to answer them. But we know now, with more certainty than ever before, that when we close our eyes at night, we are not shutting down or escaping the world. We are logging into an ancient, powerful, and deeply personal network of consciousness. We are embarking on the oldest and perhaps most intimate of all human journeys. Thank you for joining us on this exploration. May your sleep be deep and restorative, and may your dreams be revealing, inspiring, and wondrous. Keep exploring the universe within.